Hi, I'm Christina, and this is New Ways Podcast. Today, my guest is an actor, a writer, and a grad student pursuing a PhD in psychology. He's written articles for many psychology websites, as well as a previous TED speaker. But you guys, the most important part of this whole introduction is he does a fabulous impression of Stitch from Lilo and Stitch. Sina Tadayon.
Yes.
Thank you for being here with me.
I appreciate you having me here. That was a very kind introduction. That guy sounds sick.
But okay, now you have to tell us your impression.
No, at the end.
At the end?
It's too early. It's too early.
We don't know each other like that
no,
yet?
I get nervous. I'll get nervous and I'll start sweating.
Really?
Yeah, I start sweating.
Okay, I'm going to hold you to it though.
I started using Secret deodorant recently.
Secret deodorant?
Secret
like the brand Secret?
Yeah, you know. It's
yeah, they're like
deodorant.
The biggest deodorant brand.
I was very nervous about using aluminum deodorant for the longest time because I heard it was bad for you. But then I started sweating profusely in my underarms. I can't really see right now, which is chill, but it was bad. It would get super nervous, so I started using Secret.
Well, I hope you're not too nervous today.
No,
you got this.
Even if I am, I'm plugged up.
You've got it.
Secret's got me plugged up. I'm good.
I love that. Shout out Secret.
Do I have to talk into it?
Yeah, make sure you're talking into the mic.
Okay,
yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
You're fine.
Sorry.
So the topic we are discussing today is OCD. And I know this is a subject that really hits home for you. So I'm going to pass it over. Can you kind of tell us what OCD is and your relationship with it?
Yes. OCD. Orange, cantaloupe, diced. No, that's not what it stands for. That was horrible. Can you cut that out? I don't know. I was like, I should have had a better analogy. No, I've had OCD since I was a little kid. And I think a lot of times people have a preconceived notion of what OCD is. It's like people think you're like hyper meticulous, super clean, kind of anal and stuff like that. I didn't know I had OCD until I was 18. I started probably with symptoms that I know now in hindsight, probably when I was in fourth grade. But I always like to start like kind of like when I talk about OCD, kind of like breaking down what it's not. And I kind of said it's not this like a kind of characterized Hollywood archetype of like, you know, being this like super clean kind of guy that adjusts the corners and needs everything symmetrical. Although that is a part of it. I like to think of it of just simply like just an aggravated form of anxiety. It is this necessity to make sure things are in control, mainly independent of what it is like you value in your life. And it can shift and shape and morph into a plethora of different types of obsessions, for example. They can be completely specific to things that are just going on in terms of thought, in terms of you like ruminating and rechecking, but it could also be expressed tangibly, again, through like adjusting things, need to wash hands, checking, locking, skipping, counting. And then it could also be expressed and manifested through like bodily symptoms, you know, like to the point where even people have like somatic versions where it's like if you hyper obsess, you're like, okay, let's say, for example, someone got something done on their lip, right? And they're like, okay, I don't want to be swallow. Or let's say, for example, someone has strep throat and they're like, I don't want to swallow a lot because it hurts. In the moment they value like not swallowing. What OCD will be like, it'll somatically protrude and you like obsessively start swallowing. And like your mouth will like, unbeknownst to you and unwilling, produce more saliva so you swallow. But yeah, I think one analogy I like to give about OCD is like, I think everyone is trying to like get to the top of a certain mountain at all times, right? There's sort of like everyone's moving towards something, and people with OCD, people without OCD are trying to go climb this mountain. Maybe they stop when they want to, they take a break, they eat an apple, but they're trying to get to the top of that mountain, but they do so at their own agency. Someone with OCD is also trying to get to the top of that mountain, but as they climb, as they take steps, the person behind, there's a person behind them holding a spear. So anytime they trip, slow down, take a misstep, or somehow don't get to the top of that mountain as optimally as possible, they're met with a spear behind their back. So also, OCD is just kind of this hyper protection mechanism that loves you, cares for you so much, just wants to make sure you get to that goal that everyone has in the most perfect fashion. Sorry, I just rambled.
No, but that's what you're supposed to
rambled,
do.
So I jumped from here and there, and I don't even. But yeah, that's in a nutshell.
I mean, but that is exactly what you are supposed to do because I don't suffer from OCD from what I know, at least. And it seems like you have had an interesting journey with it so far. I listened to your TED Talk and the way that you even kind of described the aspect of fear and how there's this constant voice in your head talking to you, trying to like fixate on things. I found that so interesting. Yeah. So I'm kind of curious, when did you first start noticing that you had symptoms of OCD?
Yeah. Well, kind of like I mentioned, the first obsession I had that I can remember, and I've had this so much, was I was in the 4th grade and I was just riding the bus on the way to school, and some of the older kids in the back of the bus were talking about the new Dark Knight movie that just came out, the Batman movie with like Heath Ledger. And they were talking about how Heath Ledger killed himself because he couldn't get the image of the Joker out of his mind. And for some reason, that really stuck with me for the next couple months. Like that image of the Joker was like stuck in my head. Like everywhere I'd look, everywhere I would like literally was just stuck in my head. Like I could not shake that image. And the more I tried to shake it, the more it just protrude my thoughts. And yeah, it got so bad to a point that like I had to hide every hanger and belt and like kind of all that stuff in my room. I was deathly afraid of any kind of sharp object, knife, even a fork, because I thought if I thought about the Joker as much as he supposedly did, then I also would have to like kill myself.
You would have the same outcome as
I'd have the same
the actor
outcome.
did. Yeah.
I don't know if I can say kill myself. I should probably unalive myself. Yeah. Right.
I mean, I get there's all these correct terms now, but we grew up with certain terms too. It gets the point across, okay? He's not trying to offend anybody at all.
Yeah. I just didn't know if YouTube would take it down, or you post this on YouTube?
Yeah, we posted on YouTube, but who knows? And if they do, whatever. It's still going to be on a bunch of different platforms.
We'll fight them.
So why do you think you decided to fixate on that, though? When it comes to OCD, do you think people know why they tend to fixate on certain things? Is there a rhyme or reason behind it?
Yeah, actually, that's a good question. A lot of people don't talk about it. I feel like the reason I talked about core fears in the TED Talk and the reason you talked about fears, right? You negate kind of what you're afraid of, and that will tell you what you value, and vice versa, you know?
Oh, I remember that, because I remember when you were saying that, it goes back to kind of a coaching practice that I've learned is there's always a why behind the why.
Exactly.
You have to keep going behind all like the ego and the reasons why you're trying to justify in your head, and you will get to the root cause of actually why, because we always try to protect ourselves and we think it's one thing, and the actual core reason is hidden behind all these other types of reasonings.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I think again, like OCD like manifests itself in various ways, and I think depending on what you value in your life in that situation, it's just gonna hold that up like a mantle and make sure you do whatever it is to get there as perfectly as possible. For example, there's a kind of OCD called like harm OCD, and the fear is that you would do something to harm other people, right? You would like, for example, this was pretty prominent in my life when there was like this array of school shootings that was happening in the country. Yeah. Kind of in like the mid 2010s. I had really bad harm OCD about that. Like one day somehow I would be someone that would be capable of something like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So like essentially your brain, what it does is to make sure, what the OCD does to make sure that is never a possibility. It'll flush your brain constantly with those kinds of thoughts to see how you respond, to make sure you're like not like, you know what I mean? So like it'll pour those thoughts, and
you're so concerned about not being it that your body kind of forces you to live out those thoughts.
To make sure. So it's like, it'll be like, think about this. It'll like send you that thought, and it'll be like, okay, how did you respond to that thought? Whereas someone, or not like, you know, someone that doesn't have OCD might have like those like fleeting intrusive thoughts, but they can easily whisk that away. But someone with OCD that has it, they're like, no, like I care about being seen as someone who wouldn't do something like in like, especially like around that time, I value being perceived as someone who wouldn't do something like that. So I have to make sure, no matter what, that I'm not. And that's why like these thoughts keep like essentially it's like a test, you know. And like even your interactions with other people, like I would be like compulsively nice at school, you know, because as I have these bad thoughts, and it's essentially like that was a compulsory action to make sure I never would be perceived as someone that would do something like that. You know what I mean?
That must be extremely scary. I have so many intrusive thoughts all the time. I'm an avid hiker, and I'll be like standing at the edge and I'm like, maybe I should just jump. Why not? Why not? Fuck it. But I know I'm not going to. And even if I do have, like my therapist says all the time, all of us do have those dark sides in us. Like we're human. It's the light and the dark. Like there's definitely been times where I've not thought ideal thoughts towards somebody, but I know that's not me. So any of time those negative thoughts come in, I'm like, I acknowledge it for what it is.
Yeah.
And then I decide to move forward and I tell myself that's not you. And I can usually just kill it right there. Where OCD, you fixate on, oh, this isn't me. I have to prove this isn't me now.
Yeah.
And that must be extremely exhausting because even when I have negative thoughts that pop up in my head, I'm just like, I don't like these. And I still have to fight momentarily to get back to actually me. But dealing with that constantly is probably, like I said, exhausting.
Yeah.
And I'm curious too, why do you think OCD develops in certain people and not in others?
Yeah, so it's not exactly known. I mean, there's a big genetic factor that people seem to be pointing to. I think everyone has certain predispositions, right, that are based on our like genetic code or whatever. And I once heard this analogy one time that kind of explained it best. Is like, okay, imagine everyone is this balloon, right? And the more stress or external complexity that happens in your life, you lose a job, girlfriend breaks up with you, you get kicked out of school, like just whatever. It kind of heaps onto this balloon, and this balloon kind of inflates and inflates and inflates. And when this balloon gets so inflated, what happens is it releases at its weakest point, which is usually that sort of genetic predisposition. You know, some people it's like alcoholism. For some people, it might be OCD. For some people, it might be schizophrenia, you know? So it's like that combination of that genetic predisposition and that like those environmental phenotypes that kind of like allow that air to be pushed in that one area. And I think, and a lot of times it, for kids, for example, for me and a lot of people I know with OCD, it start very young, but I know a lot of people that's happened to them in their 20s and even their 30s, you know, and again, like I have no solid explanation for that other than, you know, hit a stressful point in their lives, or really they valued a lot of women after giving birth postpartum, they actually develop OCD because it's like, it's like this protection mechanism. And it's like, if you really, really care for your kid, you want to do whatever you can to like make sure they grow up in the most optimal, like, you know, healthy, perfect, quote unquote way. Like I knew a nurse who would actually, she used to work in an ER, and before she'd ever come home, she would spend hours in her car sanitizing everything, hours. She wouldn't touch her kid for a year or 2 years because she was scared of like giving them some sort of thing that she picked up from the ER. So you know what I mean? So again, like, and here's the thing, and I had a lot of arguments with people in the OCD community and kind of a lot of dissonance with myself. It's like, okay, how this sounds, you know, it's like, okay, back to the mountain analogy. This person that has OCD, that has this person behind a spear behind them, they are inevitably doing that so they get to the top of that mountain as soon as possible, right? Mm-hmm. So in some sort of facet, in some sort of world, that is a superpower, right? The journey is hellish, right? But it's like, how much of that essentially day-to-day hell can you digest in terms of what it is you want to get to, right? And that is something that I don't think anyone can objectively say yes or no. That determines on the person that's going through it. You know, there were parts in my life where my OCD was in accordance to like what I valued most, and it would dip into unhealthy ways, or I'd fall off that line every now and then, you know, which would be very irrational and unhealthy. But overall, it's like, okay, I can muster that, you know, if it means I'm getting to where I want to go quicker. But then it's dipped to times where it's like, no, this is getting irrational. Because at the same time, it's like we crave this feeling to move towards something. And
Of course.
I think that's fundamental. I think it's just we move simple from an A to a B. And I know we'll kind of talk about that later, but then like sometimes OCD will make it feel like you're moving towards something like, but it's really just kind of like putting you on this like this treadmill where it's like it just gives you.
You're running, but you're not going anywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's what people crave. It's like, okay, maybe if I tap on wood this many times, that will mean I will get this sort of outcome, right? So it's like that certainty of you being able to control how many times you tap on the wood is going to like finalize in this causal effect where you get what you want, but in reality, what relationship does it have, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think even a lot of people who don't have OCD can relate to that as well,
100%.
though, because it's a blessing and a curse in a way, right? Like I do love, and I have accepted that I will constantly be learning throughout my entire life. And that's something that I actually love, like being stagnant. I want to grow. I want to continuously to learn and thrive in my life. And I do believe that you have to get uncomfortable sometimes in order to move on with your life and go certain places.
Yeah.
There is growth in the uncomfortableness.
Sure.
But what a lot of people who don't even have OCD also do though too, is they fixate on the outcome so much that they never actually realize, for one, when they reach the mountaintop they've been climbing for so long, they get there and they're like, oh, another mountaintop.
Of course.
So you can actually never even enjoy the ride either way.
Right, of course.
Or a lot of times too, when you do fixate on something and the outcome how you think it's supposed to be, you end up creating more chaos and making your life even more harder. Like
Exactly.
I see that in clients and people walking on the street and friends that I talk to that don't even have OCD. I do get OCD as in a very extreme form, but I think that's something we all can relate on, is trying to strive for something. And what we perceive as like healthy uncomfortableness can also be toxic uncomfortableness that's doing you more harm than good.
100%.
It's finding that balance in anything.
Yeah, exactly. No, you hit it on the nose. Yeah, I mean that it's fundamental to everything. And like that's the biggest trick that's ever played on us, that it's if you get to that mountain that you will finally be satisfied. But like inevitably there's another mountain there. You know, that's why OCD, it's like it's about the journey. It's about the journey. And you know, OCD makes it seem like it's about the destination, but I don't know, sometimes that destination is really glowing in your face that you so happen to not really care about how shitty the journey is to get there, but you really gotta fucking enjoy the climb, because no matter what, there's gonna be there's
always another mountaintop. Always.
Yeah, that's I think that is the epitome of human experiences, to move towards something. And I think we fall into pits of depression and hopelessness and all that simply when we stop moving.
Oh, definitely.
I think that's it. And I think I think anxiety, I think the human condition is a flip of a coin. I think you can choose to be depressed because you have nothing to move towards, or choose to be anxious because there's something you really want to move towards. You know, like that's kind of my perception of it. I don't think there is this I think there's a healthy manner that someone can approach something to minimize the anxiety, but always if you're moving towards something, you're going to want to get there, and your body will send alerts and signals to make sure you get there in the way you want. If that's healthy or not healthy, it's kind of a spectrum, but yeah.
Yeah. And like you said too, it's two sides of the coin too. You mentioned that it's either you're going to want to grow or you're going to be miserable staying still. But I've also realized trying to appreciate both sides of it. Like everything is absolutely everything. You get a beautiful mix of it all. Is like, yeah, I think you should always be striving towards something, because it does give you a sense of purpose, and it gives you like, hey, I'm learning new things. Like we are here to expand and grow and transform in this world. But at the same time though too, you have to know when it's also time to relax. And by you relaxing, that does not mean that you're not moving either, because rest is critical for you sustaining the journey in the long run too. So it's also learning like the combination of it all, for lack of term. But what have been some things for you then that have been beneficial to control your OCD in order to get you where you need to be, but without the detriment of it?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. I would say that my OCD has been the most tame when, and this isn't usually things I do like consciously, it's usually like it just seems to be a byproduct, when I'm in positions where like my entire existence isn't about like myself. You know what I mean? It's like, so when I was in college, I was president of my fraternity.
Were you really?
Hell yeah. Not kidding. Fuck yeah, dude. Like,
good for you.
Thank you so much. Honestly, like to this day, it was kind of the most meaningful point in my life, you know, because I think it's I was responsible for 140 idiots. You know what I mean? So it's like when you're like doing that and like you have to deal with all these things and you're responsible and your day-to-day is about more than just you, it takes off that necessity for like, you know, self-actualization and kind of personal growth and this whole optimization of I need to do this, you know, kind of out. Because it's like meaning is already brought onto your life based on the perception of other people. So like the necessity for you to like kind of curate this sort of like pseudo meaning of like, oh, if I do this and I get this, if I work out here and then I will finally feel meaningful. It's like, and that's why I always think like, I feel like being a parent and having a kid is cheap meaning, you know, because it's like
cheap meaning.
It's
okay,
like,
define that.
Because it's like, all right, the second you pop something out of your hole, you know what I mean? Now you mean something to someone, something really important that you just, you know, that is just inevitable. Like, you know, it's like, I think the people that are usually the most stable, at least in my life, seem to be the people that tend to be the most responsible, right? Mothers, fathers, teachers, leaders, you know what I mean? It's because their entire life doesn't seem to be revolved around themselves. It's not as neurotic and, you know, and not as this like egocentric existence. And I think we're, again, two heads of a coin. We're like not only how we see ourselves, like I'm not only, hey, how do I see Sina as just like super cool guy with like dirty socks and stuff like that, but I'm like also, you know, I'm someone's friend, I'm someone's brother, I'm someone's son, you know, and I'm these positions, so I mean something, again, inadvertently without having to bring it. So that's what I mean by cheap meaning.
Okay. And I do like how you brought that up, and this might be a little bit off topic, but I do think that a lot of people actually do have children for the wrong reasons. And that's also going into like a whole nother route of that. If you have children to complete yourself, like that's not why you should be having children. You should have children because you feel whole within yourself and you have more than enough to give, and you do feel capable to raise another being in the best way that you see fit.
You can't have kids solely on the idea that it'll fulfill you.
I think it's an adding, not necessarily to complete you, because I'm also one of these people too, where I'm like, I feel complete by just being me and knowing that every single day I do have purpose by me being me, regardless of what that is. If I'm somebody who does like to just like lay on the beach, who knows, somebody might walk past me and say, oh, she looks like she's enjoying her life. I need to enjoy my life. I don't stress too much about the meaning. That's just who I am. I think that you being who you are, that's your meaning in life. And we always look for these big titles, right? To validate us, to make us feel like we're worthy. But I'm like, whoever said that we need this big title to prove that we're worthy and to prove that we're a good person or this and that. Like, I think that's a skewed image of what we're all here to be and do is these titles. They should not really define you. I think that's where people get mixed up though. And they're always trying to strive for something. And then they get it and they're like, I'm not happy. It's because society said, if you have this title, that's an admirable title, you're helping people, you're adding to the community. But I'm like, everything is so essential in this world. Everything. The janitor is essential. The person that is like a beauty influencer, she's essential because she's also helping other people. But that's what I mean. Yeah, and I go, like, there are certain things too that are like more critical. No, for sure. And there are things that are more critical, but I think it's the skewed image of what these titles mean.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I think, so like, I think is like, all right, let's say there's a homeless guy on the street and, I want to give him $5, but I want to give him $5 because it makes me feel good. To be honest, I'm giving this guy $5 more so because I think, hey, you know, good karma makes me feel good, makes me feel like a better person. And for a while, I'd always like sit on that. I was like, you know, it's kind of fucked up, but it's kind of selfish, you know. But at the end of the day, that homeless guy doesn't give a fuck.
No, I think everything is a give and take, though.
You know?
I think that if you are giving and it's making you feel good and you make somebody else feel good, it's a win-win.
Yeah,
everything's an equal exchange of energy, okay?
Yeah, that's my point about like having kids. It's like if my parents were like, I want to have a kid because I just lost my job and I feel like shit and my life has no meaning, so I'm going to have a kid because it makes me feel better. I'm gonna be like, thank God you guys had sex in an Arby's bathroom, or else I wouldn't exist, you know? Like,
I guess there's different ways to look at things, because then you can see that person where you see them have a child and they flip their life upside down, and it is something for the better. And I'm like, good for you, actually. Like, that's great. But then you do see people who bring children into the world who think it's going to complete them, and they just end up repeating the same toxic cycles because they didn't know anything different anyways. And you put a child in a position. Everything is like with a grain of salt,
silly
okay?
Gooses,
So
what are you doing, you silly gooses?
You could put two people in the same scenario, give them the exact same kind of like blueprint, and they're going to do two different things. Who the fuck actually knows?
Any two people that are having sex in an Arby's bathroom should not.
Is that how you were conceived?
Should not have kids.
Is that how you were conceived?
No, not Arby's.
You sure?
Red Robin.
Oh, really?
Yum.
Actually? I'm curious too. This is something I've heard recently. Is if I asked you who you are, what would you say?
If you ask me who I am?
Yeah, who's Sina?
Fuck. It's hard for me to say, honestly.
First thing that pops into your head, who are you?
Cool guy.
Okay.
Cool. No, that's really not
But
it.
why not though? Because that's the thing is I recently listened to another podcast and he was saying if you ask somebody who they are, you're oftentimes going to find out what's most important to them. And I'm like, oh, that's actually kind of cool. Because if you ask a guy walking down the street in like a suit maybe who really loves his job, but he does have kids at home, chances are the first thing he's going to say is like, I'm a businessman before he's a father.
Right.
But if you go up to maybe like a teacher in the school who likes her job, but she loves being a mother more, she's going to say she's a mother before she's a teacher.
I see.
And I thought that was actually
That's
really
pretty cool.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. So fuck, I'm just a cool guy.
So you value being a cool
that's
guy.
That's what I value more than anything. Fuck you, mom and dad. I'm just a cool guy.
Why not though? Thank you, mom and dad. You made a cool guy. Shit.
Hell yeah, dude. Thanks.
You know what I mean? So on that note too, would you say that back to kind of what's helped you with your OCD is you finding meaning in your life is what's helped you? Or are there any other tricks that you can kind of recommend to people who are like, I think I might have OCD, or ways to pinpoint it? Like what's been most beneficial for you on this journey?
Yeah, I mean, I think other than 25 milligrams of Zoloft.
Actually?
Yeah, I mean, I've tried SSRIs. Like I was on fluvoxamine.
But is OCD technically considered depression?
No. It's it just when it affects your serotonin, then I haven't learned. I'm not this far yet in school, but essentially it's like it's not a direct causation where it's like, okay, let's say you increase your serotonin, then it'll essentially cure or help areas of your OCD. It's just more so like a lifestyle thing, where it's like, okay, if your serotonin levels maybe are more manageable or balanced and stuff like that, it might correlate to having lesser symptoms of, because again, like OCD is just kind of byproduct of anxiety. It's just this kind of like more aggravated version. So I guess the idea behind it is like if you tame the anxiety a little bit, essentially what you'll do is also tame the OCD. Which I was just, because I was skeptical very much so at first. I was on fluvoxamine for a little bit, and then I kind of went off of it. And then this past year, I kind of had a really, really intense episode where I could not think rationally. I lived in an alternate reality. So I kind of had no choice, and I got on it, and I went to, I was in an outpatient program for a little bit, which like really helped. And combination of those two things just kind of helped me see the fog be lifted a little bit, so I could see a little clearer, and then be able to be like, oh, okay, what I'm doing, this is crazy. I would make smoothies, and if my past roommate Sean can attest to this, I would make smoothies, and if I had an inch of protein that got stuck to the side or didn't mix correctly and I didn't get it in, it would ruin my entire week. I'd freak out. I'd have this feeling almost where I wanted to bang my head against the wall, because it was like, I had like, it's like not perfectly optimized. In that moment in time, I valued like looking a certain way. It was very body related. So, you know what I mean? I was on some SSRIs, have kind of tamed down a little bit, but it has helped. You know, you can tell it's almost this like tangible feeling. If you've had OCD for so long, you can kind of gnaw and it's thick. Like you're like, okay, this is OCD, this is anxiety. Like you kind of get a sense it's different, you know? And it's helped. But I think the biggest thing is knowing and understanding what it is, and kind of knowing about why you have this specific thematic form of OCD, like what it is that you value, what it is that you fear, why this exists in your life, and then doing your best to not give in to, for example, the core fundamental treatment of OCD isn't medication related, it's therapy related. It's called ERP.
Okay.
It kind of goes back to exactly what you said, where you have to kind of fail, you know, to learn to grow. The whole fundamental theory behind it is that you expose yourself to the thing that is causing you anxiety. For example,
really,
if in that
exposure therapy,
exactly, that's all it is. It's exposure response, like prevention. So it's like, if that smoothie, what I'd do is I'd purposefully not finish that smoothie, you know, and like sit with that anxiety, because the idea is anxiety isn't going to always shoot up. Let's see, how's the secret holding up? Pretty bad, not gonna lie. Holy fuck.
You're doing great. Nobody can even see it.
No,
You're
it's okay.
doing
They
great.
can see it. It's okay. You don't have to lie.
But no, when you're sitting there, you can't even see.
Yeah,
you guys, he's looking at himself on the camera,
What
and I'm
the hell
like, you
is
can't even
this?
see your pits, babe.
Yeah, no. So basically, the idea is like anxiety will shoot up, but then it'll plateau and go back down. It'll never just keep shooting up. You know,
well, if anything, by exposing yourself to it and realizing you're still okay after, to me, I'd be like, is that kind of just like retraining your brain to realize, hey, this thing that I'm actually obsessing over, like I can live through it and nothing crazy has happened afterwards.
Yeah, it's kind of just like retraining your brain and stuff like that. So that is but that's like, again, it's like for someone with OCD, like that's like confronting a puma into your face, because your perception is very skewed. That smoothie, the idea is like, oh my God, my life will be over if I don't drink this smoothie in its entirety. So it's like you're literally facing
it feels like you're facing death in the face in a way. Like your scariest things, like your biggest fear, you do have to face to. Because I'm a huge believer. I've said this, I feel like a bajillion times, but sometimes the only way out is through it. You have to face it. You have to get through it.
Yeah.
So, because you said that you actually admitted yourself recently to get help.
Yeah. I was, it got bad. It got pretty bad. I was like, again, like that smoothie stuff, like things of that relic, but in like, you know, manifesting in different things, whether I had a scale. And one day my roommate he's like, can I weigh myself? Can I go on the scale? I was like, you know what? It's a good exposure. He tries to turn on the scale by touching the middle, but it wasn't the on button. It was just like a battery pack. And then I was like, get off. Because in my mind, him touching that battery pack skewed the battery. So therefore, there'll never be an accurate representation of the numbers when I go on the scale. So I'll never know and I never know how much I weigh. How much do I know? Like how much weight I have to gain or how much weight I have to lose, what I have to eat then. Everything gets here, like all the like uncertainty gets provoked.
It goes, you keep going and like you're spiraling. Now you're coming up with a bunch of different scenarios that haven't even happened yet, and it's just causing you more anxiety.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's a very admirable thing for you to do, though, is say like, hey, I need help. I do feel like with anything mental health related, thankfully now I think it's becoming more of like more talked about, more of a standard to seek mental health.
Yeah.
But back then, I feel like so many people demonized it and they were scared to reach out for help because they felt broken. They felt like there was something really, really wrong with them.
Yeah.
But a lot of times there's more people out there struggling with this than you think.
Yeah.
So was there ever a time where you kind of put off getting help because you thought, oh, I don't need it, or, oh, like I'll be okay. And then you decided, no, I really do.
Yeah. I mean, like I said before, it's like, you think you're moving towards something, so it's fine. Like it's fine. It's worthwhile. I'm moving towards something. If anything, at times it helps, and I can muster through it, because it isn't like depression or even like a baseline anxiety where it's like, you know, depression is just very like this mundane feeling of like what's next, like or like there's nothing next. I'm sorry. And then anxiety again is just like, you know, just in normal healthy doses, it does what it's supposed to. But then OCD, it's kind of like just this constant, like, what's next? What more can I do? How more can I, what more can I do to get to this top of the mountain? So again, sometimes you get so lost in the, what more can I do? And how fast can I get to the top of this mountain that, and like it kind of seeps in, because it tickles that part of the human mind, that desire to move towards something. So sometimes you're like, fuck it, I'm moving towards something. Who cares? I'm doing
so you rationalize it, but in reality, you know that if you don't seek help, it's probably just going to get worse and worse and worse until it's detrimental to your health. Yeah.
You're just on that treadmill and you're just like, you just don't realize it. You know, the mountain's in front of you, but it's just on a screen. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So
on that note, to kind of close out then, if people feel like they might be struggling with OCD, they don't really know yet, but they can resonate with some of the things that you have said in this podcast today, what do you think are the steps that they should take to hopefully controlling their OCD or seeking guidance or help?
Yeah, I would say number one thing is just learn as much as you can about it. The more you learn about it, the more you feel like you have control of it. But I caution people, don't let learning about it become something that you now attach to your identity.
Yeah, don't fixate on it and create something, make it worse than it has to be.
There's that big idea in psychology where it's like, okay, giving a name or a diagnosis that sometimes contributes more to the problem because now people feel like
they identify with it.
Right. And I think that usually comes where people have like a void of certain things that may be like staples in their own identity. So when there comes a title, they really cling on to it. So I just think, know about it, learn about it. Cause it's like, I talked this about my TED Talk. It's like when you have strep throat and you go and you get diagnosed that, hey, you have strep throat, you kind of get this like weight lifted off your shoulder, you know? That's because now you know
you have answers.
You have answers. It's like, but you're not walking around being like, what are you? Who are you? You're not putting strep throat in your bio. You know what I mean? You don't gotta put strep throat in your bio.
No.
Yeah. Just get the answers. You know, heal yourself, but do not put strep throat in your bio.
Yeah, I agree with that. I just love something that's been so prevalent in my life when it comes to anything, regardless if I'm striving for something, if I've met a goal, if I'm learning, if I feel like I'm behind, I'm like, this too shall pass.
Yeah.
The only thing that's consistent in life is that nothing is consistent. Everything is constantly changing, and you can either make it progress and like fixate on it, or you can be like, hey, I have this, let's deal with it and see if I can like manage it and maybe get rid of it one day. So I really like how you made that point. Thank you for that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Don't put strep throat in your bio.
Thank you so much for this amazing conversation,
Thank you so
Sina.
much. I very much appreciate it.
Yeah, I love these talks, and your insight's very, very valuable. And to our listeners too, I will go ahead and put his TED Talk link below. Please watch it. Honestly, it's a treat. I was very surprised, to say the least.
You're like, this idiot can
not even that. I was like, because I met Sina at a pool party, you guys. I was like, and then we talked about the psychology stuff, and I'm like, wow, like you're actually very insightful in it, and I feel like you do have a good grasp, and you're very down to earth. You're very modest. You don't try to pretend like you have it all figured out, which a lot of people do.
Thank you.
And I think that's the most relatable thing.
Yeah, I don't know shit. So I was just trying to figure it out.
I kind of agree with that. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, look at that. This is from the Zoloft. This didn't happen 6 months ago, I promise.
But no, I watched your TED Talk and I was like, wow. See, you can be multifaceted, you guys. You can be a goofball. You can have mental illness, you can overcome it and talk on a stage in front of a bunch of people. So I will link his TED Talk because it honestly is a treat. Please watch it. And once again, Sina, just thank you for being here with me. And thank you guys for listening. Until next time, I love you.
I love you.
I love when people do that.